women and single moms and stuff. And I can see how it has escalated, but there's a lot of factors to it. You're talking about kids not having fathers and stuff. I can tell you the opposite stories. My own story. The guy doesn't want to be involved in her life, and I'm not going to force him to.
It's
right?
personal to
So
her.
there's a lot, and I am actually part of a lot of single moms groups where a lot of these men don't want to be involved in these kids' lives. It's not that women are stopping them, but you know what? Online, we hear always, oh, I wanted to see my kid. And the ones that do see them, they see them once a week. If you're saying that women haven't been doing duty, actually, women are doing double the duty now. Women go outside, they work, and then they come back home. And then
I'm just going to be honest here. I don't know the group of men that are abandoning their children. To be honest, I know significantly more men who didn't want to be in a relationship with the woman. The woman considered her and the kid to be a package deal, so she started to separate the kid from the man and started weaponizing the kid as a power mechanism to control him. Because of the sexual revolution and feminism, I see more people having casual sex, and then they try to make their relationships work out for the kid, but they just don't work out. And the woman assumes because the guy is a bad boyfriend that he might be a bad dad, and those two things aren't the same thing.
To those kids. But men, when they go to work, they come back,
10
they don't
seconds
do
left.
stuff at home. Sorry, in 1 second. So they don't
You
do
can go,
all the
okay.
same things. Like we got our rights, we got whatever, but men stopped, they didn't change themselves, that the physical labor and the whole responsibility of raising a child. You guys don't take that responsibility.
Time.
More
We'll kick it over to Andrew.
These are
for
all excellent
60
arguments
seconds.
you're making against feminism and egalitarianism. You're right. The law used to make it mandatory that men had to take care of
Exactly.
their children.
Yep.
Had to. They had to do it, or they went, or they went to jail. They had to take care of their wives, or they went to jail.
And also, even in custody court, people were automatically granted 50-50 custody, and that changed when the court system realized they can make a lot of money off of child support. The state gets 66% of every dollar reimbursed to them from the federal government that they collect in child support. So the state has an incentive to put one parent on child support. So now you see less 50-50 custody. It was supposed to be for the betterment of the child. They understood that the father being in the child's life was the number one factor to the success of the child. So they would incentivize 50-50 custody. So yeah, even in the world before the feminist propaganda that she's spewing, these guys, even if separated, would have 50-50 custody.
On top of that, wives, they're the ones who are doing the initiation of divorce. And it's not for abuse. The number one reason is irreconcilable differences. He doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, which puts their children at a massive disadvantage in comparison to the rest of society. Okay, you do have to sacrifice your duties and interests on behalf of your children. You say, oh, men don't help out with the housework. Well, yeah, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's your job, lady. He does the work. You do the housework.
Yeah, and even if you separate from the man, you still have to do the housework. So this whole idea that separation means that I'm going to do less things, no, it just means that you're going to have more things, because now instead of the guy who's a little lazy, you have nobody to help you, yet you still have to take care of the kids and go try to make a living. And at some point, one of those two things are going to suffer. And because making a living is a necessity, that's probably not going to be the thing that suffers. It's probably going to be more the family and the kids, really.
It's terrible. And by the way, it's a great deal for women to be stay-at-home moms. They only have to do the early maternal years. I have multiple children. It gets way easier as they get older in that department. And most of the time now, you ship your kid off to public school by the time they're 6. So you don't even have them for 8 hours out of the day. Don't tell me how rough it is on women. Give me a break.
60 seconds.
Okay, so like I say, it's so easy. Why don't men do it? Let's do it.
They
right?
do do it. They do do it.
No. There's more single mothers than there's single fathers. Okay.
Yeah, but the single fathers have better results by far, by every metric, by the way. And I mean, I'm just reporting.
Okay,
I literally know of women that have been divorced in my area in the last few years that I've lived here. And let me tell you, they're exhausted. They're exhausted from working outside. They're exhausted from taking care of the parent, for the kids, running them around here. And literally, they're tired. That's why you say like, oh, they didn't feel.
So then leave and then do it all yourself. That makes sense. That's how you get the help you need.
warm and fuzzy anymore. So you want the parents to be miserable, not love each other, but stay for the kids. Do you think that is better for the kids? No, it's not better for the kids.
That's not what the stats show.
I'll make you that argument.
Not what the stats show.
If the woman, the mother, is herself miserable in a relationship, if she can't take care of herself, how is she going to take care of the kids? You guys are never there. I have been in, like, literally, you would rather have an abusive family, these people screaming, yelling and screaming in front of kids that they think is better than
10
having
seconds
two
late.
separate houses.
Well, then you have
I
to,
just don't
then
get
you got,
it.
then Lucy, you got some splaining to do, because before we had no fault divorce, most people stayed married. And if women were truly
they
these,
couldn't
hey,
get a
can you stop? Can you
We'll have
stop
to give it
talking,
to
lady?
60 seconds.
So if it is the case, lady, that women were in these miserable marriages and they just couldn't leave, and that was actually worse for the kids, how come those kids were so much better adjusted with way less mental illness and had way better prospects for their future than our children do right now in single mother households? Can you explain that? Why is it that in single mother households, the children have every single multiple disadvantage you could think of, including mental illness, homelessness, everything else, when in comparison, we go back to before there was no fault divorce, women stayed married. That generation of children, far better adjusted, way less mental illness, way less homelessness, way better nest eggs. They have better advantages in every aspect. So if it is the case that women were just miserable, right, and they shouldn't have stayed just out of duty, because that would affect the kids. It seems to have affected them positively, didn't it?
Yeah, and also, too, single mothers are the poorest demographic in America. So the best way to damn near guarantee that your children won't grow up in poverty is to have a two-parent household. So this whole idea that these women are leaving their husbands and then they're flourishing without their husband sponsoring it or without the government sponsoring it in some way, because single mothers are the most beneficiaries of welfare programs also, obviously. Outside of those mechanisms being in place, the conditions would be horrible in terms of poverty for women and children. The vast majority of women are not getting divorces or are staying single with children and flourishing.
Thing is like these two-parent households, we see this over and over and over again. The outcomes for those children, way better.
Yes.
They did better academically.
Yeah.
They did better physically. They did better in almost every aspect of life in comparison to modern children who are raised in single mother households. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All data points to this. All of it.
Okay, so you were saying that those kids back in the days were better physically. Okay, yeah, I agree with you, because there was no internet, there was no social media. Kids went outside, they played, they socialized. It was a different time, right? That's what you keep bringing it. No, it was a different time. There was not as many people in the world. It wasn't so multicultural, right? Was it? It was a different world where
these
you
are great arguments against feminism.
going to be different. Hang on, the outcomes are going to be different. Right? Nobody was glued to their TV all day long. So obviously they were better physically fit, right? They went and played more sports, so you could see better sportsmen coming out of there. Nowadays, you're seeing more gamers. It's just different. You're still seeing that talent, but it's different. It's you don't. No, because there wasn't that many people at that time either. Like
but it's also about like criminality too and temperament. Like, for example, I guarantee you if you asked her, she would say that women being raped is a bad thing in society. But 85% of the men who rape women come from single mother households. And that isn't to say majority of men from single mother households would do something like that. That's only still a small minority of those men. But at the end of the day, if you talk about those crimes being so heinous, if you're promoting single motherhood, you're promoting that exact same crime that I just mentioned. You could literally wipe out 85% of it if you got rid of single motherhood.
I understand how you keep comparing that time to now time, because the situations were different. You know, everything wasn't.
These are great arguments against multiculturalism.
It wasn't so expensive. You know, both parents didn't have to go work outside, right?
Yeah.
You could live in a home and one car in a decent. The times have changed now. You cannot just say, oh, it's because single mom.
This is great.
And again, the single moms, where are the fathers? Why are they
like this is fantastic. You're right. It's almost like putting women in the workforce, right? Because rich industrialists wanted them to be in the workforce, and they did, and it was all funded by Rockefeller, for instance, who wanted them in the workforce in the worst way, okay? Doubled the now amount of labor, industrial labor, which was available, thus decreasing and suppressing wages necessarily. It was a terrible idea. You're right. They could afford one income because society was set up for that. Women demanded the opposite, and the outcome of that was really bad.
But also prices of things started to go up because two people were in the workforce, and now you could start to afford things that you normally couldn't afford. For example, something like a house. With two people working, now expensive houses are more affordable, therefore driving up the prices because more and more people are trying to buy them. So not only did you double the workforce, you stagnated wages, and prices of certain things started to go up because of affordability.
Well, wait a second. It's a different time then, and they didn't have A, B, C, and D. Well, okay, but now we see in two-parent households right this second in modernity, the outcomes for children are still way better. Even if they're in houses where the mom and daddy don't really like each other that much, the outcome for the kids are still better. Why? Because they govern that stuff. They govern the smartphone use. They make them have more playtime. They make demands that they watch less TV. Single mothers aren't making those types of demands. They don't even have time to make those types of demands. Clearly, it's better to have a two-parent household and keep those intact. Feminism has been doing everything it can to destroy that and women's liberation. And I just demonstrated it to you, and you demonstrated it yourself by giving the examples of how society used to be way better.
Fair here. Malich, go ahead.
I think women need to have the right to have a divorce. If they're not happy in a marriage, they should have a right to divorce. The fact that
because their happiness to her is more important than their family. That's literally what she's saying right there. A woman should be able to sacrifice her family for the sake of her own happiness. And I don't think that that's appropriate because you made vows. That's why the vows are written as they are. And if you don't believe in them, then you should not get married. The marriage and the vows is to make sure that you can't just quit out when things get hard.
And again, you keep saying single mothers, single mothers, single mothers. I can list 100 names right now of single mothers whose men are not involved. They don't want to see the kids. So you keep blaming the women where we are the ones trying. First of all, we didn't go and get an abortion because otherwise then we would be baby killers. So now we chose to keep the kids, right? So that's also our responsibility. Now we're single mothers. And
this is too personal to her. She's not able to look at this logically. And this is what happens a lot of times. And the more single mothers you have in society, the more you're going to get this type of stuff. She's not able to talk about generalities. It's too personal to her.
Nobody wants this anymore. And the men go and cry on the internet, oh, we are restricting access to their kids. No, these men choose. I have even seen men that will quit working so they don't have to pay child support. Yes, maybe single mothers.
Well, that's because he doesn't want to have his child weaponized against him. And that's exactly the scenario that I just mentioned.
Do fall behind, but they have a lot on their plate. But I will tell you something else. I know you're bringing these stats and stuff, but what I see around me, it's totally different. I have seen single mothers, once they get out of the relationship, they're better. They're focusing on themselves. They can focus better on their kids now. Their life is more organized. They're doing far more better when they were together in an unhappy relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, this is hilarious because we can look at multiple studies which have meta-analysis done on them. Right. And so we can prove that the court system has been extraordinarily biased against men towards women when it comes to custody here in the United States. We have all the support in the world to prove it. We also know that women are initiating the divorces, not men, due to the unhappiness level. Right? They're the initiators of these divorces, not the men. So yeah, the men are like, oh, okay, so you're going to take my kid, hit me out of the blue with a divorce, right? And I'm supposed to pay child support? Like, screw that. It's a raw deal. So yeah, men have legitimate concerns and gripes with this, right? When they get blasted with things like this, men are put in that position. The court systems have been traditionally biased against them. At least my entire adult life they have. Definitely. And in my father's adult life they were. The second we went into no fault and the custody agreements were automatically defaulting to women. We can see this time and time again. Only through men's rights advocacy has this gotten better at all. And right now what we can do is we can look at the data of single mother versus single father households, and the single father households outperform them by every single metric. Do you know why that is? It's because abuse in the home happens to children mostly because of step parents, where women are bringing strange men around the kids, and that's when the kids get diddled and they get beat up and they get everything else. That's on women. That's on the women.
What's even crazier about this is that she's saying that women should prioritize their own happiness and get divorces. But have you looked at the increase of suicidality that women who are divorced have? The increase of antidepressants, the increase of anti-anxiety medications. Yeah, you can say that these women are happier because they divorced their husbands, and they can say it to themselves. But when you see an alarming rise of these types of things, it's undeniable. Women are not leaving their marriages and flourishing financially. That just doesn't even make sense, and they're certainly not getting happier after the divorce. So that doesn't make any sense.
This whole argument that, oh, it's because the single mothers are bringing men, because otherwise kids were never getting molested in the houses. Let's not even talk about the church. In Pakistan, most of the kids.
Let's talk about it.
In
Pakistan, what's she talking about?
Double family homes. You know who is getting molested in Pakistan? They're wearing burqas. They're covering everything. The kids are getting molested at their house, in their house. Okay, some other step parent didn't have to come in. Yeah, I know it happens, and women should be careful.
What
but
is
the way
she
you
talking
paint here that
about?
every single mother is here going on. I've had one guy meet my daughter because I know what it takes to be in that situation, right? Ever. And that's the worst thing that can happen to your your child.
Did you
get
say you
molested.
had a guy beat your daughter?
No, I said I've only have had one man meet my daughter,
Oh,
but
me.
you
It's too
Okay.
personal.
here
She keeps
paint
bringing
all
herself
single
up.
mothers that are bringing their, step parents in. And again, how is that woman's fault? Because she's trusting that man. And of course, you men are like this. You will be. I can't even believe
it's her fault because she divorced the husband of her children to go do what she's doing. So if she attracts something negative in the pursuit of her own journey or exploration or pursuit of her own happiness, that's on her. And ultimately, this is what I see, and this is the biggest issue, and I do think that this is a little weird, and I don't think that it's every woman. But what I'm trying to say is right now, there is a cultural push for women to start to prioritize their own happiness over their own children via abortion and over their own children via divorce.
I don't even know what point I was making. I just totally lost it up there. Sorry.
Well, let me respond very quickly to all
what you were
these.
saying, can you repeat that?
Yeah,
Because
to all
you
the. Hang on, let me respond quickly to all these claims. We'll start with molestation in church. You're right, it does happen, but you know where it significantly happens way more? Public schools, which is where you're sending your kids. Way more.
Yeah.
True.
It's 100 times more. In
Yep.
fact, 100 times more in public schools. The public institutions are way worse than the churches. So the thing is like that point is moot. You're not advocating we get rid of public schools because of that. So not only that,
Yeah, the problem is it turns out that people who like to diddle children like to go into spaces where they can be around children.
what I'm saying is that if you really have concern for your children, you'll do everything you can first to make your relationship work out on behalf of your child, knowing that the stats and rates of bringing strange people around are going to be detrimental to your child. That's terrible. And this happens over and over again. Women are choosing to be single moms. The father does not want to break it up. The father does not want to break the family up. They choose to be single moms by initiating these divorce procedures against the husband's will, and they don't have to show any cause. They're choosing it. You can't choose it, then complain about it.
Yeah, no, we are choosing it. I have actually spoken
So
to
then
three
what is she
women that
talking
just got
about?
separated here. One was never married, but they broke up. They were together for like 7 years. Yeah, women are choosing because we're tired. Like women have literally told me, they're like, we're tired. We can't do all this work. You
Yeah,
know,
they're like,
you
that's
guys
gonna
are
make it
not,
less work.
you guys are not putting your own weight. No, you guys are not pulling your own weight. That you're saying we are choosing instead of being miserable. We want to leave, and men don't want to leave. Men don't want to leave. Who wants to leave when all your shit is done for you? Who
Make these hoes do some domestic labor. These ladies are bored and they're online talking nonsense. If you are paying majority of the bills as a man, you should not be doing majority of the domestic labor also. That is her duty at that point. Now, if y'all splitting things, then y'all splitting things, it's a little bit different. But if I'm paying majority of the bills, I'm never getting convinced into doing majority of the domestic labor too. That's insane. And the fact that there are grown men being shamed into doing that is insane here.
she's sleeping with you, and you don't even have to pay anything.
Whoa, what a privilege. She's sleeping with you. Wow, what a privilege.
Of the bills too. Wow, it's like heaven. Haven't you seen that stats? That single women are happier and married men are happy because all their chores are done for them because they've got a maid. Like this is exactly what it is. That's why women are like, we've had enough. We'll do it ourselves. If we have to do the same work, we'll do it for work. And let me tell you, one person's work less is so much better. Believe me, we can focus more. So this is why women are leaving it. It is their choice.
It just makes no sense.
But you men, you don't want to leave because you're so comfortable. You don't want to do better. So women just get up and leave. They're like, okay, fuck it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so here's what's actually going on. You're talking on both sides of your mouth again. So on the one hand, you say it's so hard for single moms out here. Oh my God! My turn, lady.
Over
My
to
turn,
Andrew
lady.
for 60 seconds.
So you speak out of both sides of your mouth. Okay. Oh, it's so hard to be a single mom. Who would ever choose that condition? It's so terrible. And then on the other hand, you're like, I know women who are choosing that condition right now because they're just tired of men.
Man.
You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, right? So here's what's actually happening. Men feel an obligation, duty to keep their families intact. Women do not in modernity feel an obligation to keep their family intact. That's why they initiate these divorces. Not only are they initiating these divorces, but you, by your own admission, just said you know no less than 3 right now who just did because they're just tired. You know,
she literally just admitted that women don't have an obligation to stay in their marriages. As long as they're not happy, they don't have an obligation.
What about the duty to the kid? I don't know. Screw the kid. It's all about me. It's all about mom. It's all about how I feel. It's like, no, you have children involved now. You have a duty and obligation to keep your family together, just like the the men do who are not initiating these divorces. You say it's because they're so comfortable. No, they're not. They're working more than ever.
True.
They're working more overtime than
True.
ever. They're
Yes.
working their asses
True.
off nonstop. And by the way, the conditional, if you think that single women are so much happier, explain why they kill themselves more often than married women do.
Bingo.
If they're so fucking happy, especially divorced women. Especially divorced women try to
Bingo,
off
yeah.
themselves more. In fact, this is one of the segments of demographics most likely to do it.
Yeah, and it's single people in general on the male side too, and divorced men also have higher rates of suicidality. So this isn't really a one-sided issue. It just turns out that humans are very social beings and life is a two-player game. And if it takes two people to make kids, it probably takes two people to raise kids.
We'll kick it over to Malish.
It's like we can say, why are men that get divorced also commit suicide? Single men are also committing suicide.
Because it's miserable,
so, yeah,
right?
They're both doing it, right?
Because it's miserable.
When I try to answer you, you just distract me with these.
All right. I'm not going to distract you. Go ahead.
And so yeah, no, women are tired and men are comfortable. They are comfortable. That's exactly the reality of it. Men are working, so are women. Today, women are working. It's two-income household. But when men come home, they want their meals cooked. They don't want to do anything at home. So exactly, this is how bad it is. Even though women know life is going to be miserable, probably really hard after they leave that guy, but they still choose it because they're still happier than what they were in before. So imagine how bad it is. Imagine how bad it is. You guys don't see your shortcoming. You guys keep blaming things on us. Women work 60 plus hours extra in just household labor, running around with the kids and their chores and doing all those things. And I'm not only talking about single moms. I'm talking about mothers that have parents. And if men wanted to keep families together, we wouldn't have men cheating with multiple women. All right? No, those men will go out. Men do commit more adultery. And
this is starting to seem oddly personal.
You know that men are more likely to go cheat because they can't control themselves. Of course.
Time.
And in our religion, in Islam, you're legally allowed 4 wives. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I'm not advocating on behalf of Islam. That's one.
He's Christian.
And I advocate on behalf of monogamy like Christians do. Not only that, but who are they cheating with? They're cheating with women who are homewreckers. They're like, what do you want me to say there? Not only that, but men work more hours than
Tell them we're married.
Dude.
You know how many guys come to me? They don't tell me they're married.
Yeah, stop clucking, lady. So men work more hours than women. This is a statistical fact. You can look it up yourself. You can Google it right this second. Men work way more hours than women do. Not only that, when you say, oh, but women in household chores actually do more. No, they don't. And again, it gets way easier. Most women pack their kids off to a public institution for 8 hours out of the day.
Yeah.
Who are you trying to fool here? How dumb do you think we are? You pack them up for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. After school activities often will take up even more of their time. You have to help them with a little bit of homework, make sure they brush their teeth and go to bed.
Yeah, it's a very important job, but to act like it's the hardest job is just disingenuous. And you probably haven't seen coal mining.
It's a real rough life out there. Meanwhile, you have modern conveniences, washing machines, dishwashers. How long do you think it takes to load a dishwasher? Not very long. How long do you think it takes to load the laundry? Not very long. No, household chores are not, you're not overcoming men in their overtime work with household chores. That's ridiculous. And not only that, it's not laborious. As a famous comedian once said, any job you can do in your fucking pajamas can't be that hard.
Great job by Andrew Wilson. This one is Are Single Mothers Destroying Society, featuring Andrew Wilson versus The Female Prophet. That is a hell of a name. I'll leave a link in the pinned comments in the description down below. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L, and give me the HBO special. That's a Help a Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.